the 4th of February 2025, right? So today I'll talk about Trump tariffs update. I think this is a very important subject that should be discussed so that everyone could abreast to whatever is happening. Now, in my previous report, I highlighted that Trump's tariff could serve as a strategic threat to secure better deals, and recent developments have proven just that. Now, on February 1st, President Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Mexico, a 25% tariff on China, and a 10% tariff on, 25% tariff on Canada, and a 10% tariff on China. Now, by Monday, stock markets across Asia and Europe reacted sharply, with investors growing increasingly concerned about the economic impact of these new tariffs, right? So we saw that this week, Monday, okay? So Britain's FTSE dropped approximately 1.25% in midday trading, while Germany's DAX and France CAC 40 fell by about 1.7%. Meanwhile, Japan's Nikkei index closed 2.66% lower, South Korea's KOSPI slid 2.5%, and Hong Kong's Hang Seng index saw early losses exceeding 2% before recovering slightly to close down just 0.07%, right? So the turbulence extended to the US markets as well. The S&P 500 dropped nearly 2%, while the Dow Jones Industrial Average plunged as much as 665 points. However, market sentiment shifted when President Trump, during US lunch hours, announced a 30-day suspension of tariffs on Mexico following an agreement with Mexican President Sheinbaum, right? So this was the message he posted on the X platform, right? So this, and he said that, I just spoke with President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico. It was a very friendly conversation when she agreed to immediately supply 10,000 Mexican soldiers on the border separating Mexico and the United States. Basically, that's to stop the inflow of two things. One is drugs. Number two is the migrants, okay, the illegal immigrants into the US. So basically that the same thing was repeated with Canada, right? Because shortly thereafter, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau posted on X confirming that Canada, like Mexico, would also be exempted from tariffs for the next 30 days. Okay, so same thing right over here. That's why I've been saying that, Trump, he knows what he's doing, what's the reason why he's pushing for these tariffs. So with both leaders confirming the temporary reprieve, it became increasingly clear that Trump was using tariffs as a high-stakes bargaining tool rather than a rigid economic policy. In what could be described as a classic art of deal, just like his book here, this is what a famous book of his known as the Trump Art of Deal. So this is a classic art of deal move because both Mexico and Canada agreed to ramp up border protections, leading to the pause in tariffs, right? So what happened after that? Now, first thing first, the market responded swiftly, reversing some losses as investors breathed a sigh of relief. By the close, the S&P 500 had trimmed its losses to 0.76%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average ended down just 122.75 points or 0.3%, and Nasdaq Composite fell 1.2%. Now, despite these rebounds, lingering uncertainty prevented markets from turning fully positive. The uncertainty still remains. Trump did not announce any pause on 10% tariffs on China, which took effect yesterday. However, he hinted a possible negotiation, stating that his administration would likely speak with China over the next 24 hours, raising hopes of a resolution. So far, China has retaliated by announcing additional tariffs of up to 15% on select US imports starting February 10th. The European Union could also be next in line for tariff discussions, right? So it's fine so far, because Trump is very, very vocal, and he talks a lot about these tariffs. But guess what? Do you think Biden didn't introduce tariffs? He did. And when he imposed tariffs, it wasn't small. It was huge. I'm talking, of course, it's not across the board like what Trump did, but it's still huge on certain sectors, goods and services. I remember it's about another extra about 40% on top of the current tariffs that were already introduced, right? So those are the things that you need to really understand in detail uh, about tariffs, because if you really look into the US history, they didn't have tax. They actually started off with tariffs to uh, to to get the income for the country, right? So Trump is just going back to what US have done in the past during the early days where they just had tariffs to supplement the income and not tax. Now, although the stock market narrowly avoided a more significant downturn, risks still persist. Even Trump has acknowledged that these tariffs would bring some economic pain to Americans. Now, I'd like to highlight this. If his strategy, he can pull through all these strategies, this kind of pain we're not going to talk a long-term pain. We're talking about maybe 6 to 7 months before the rest of the plans kick through, and you're able to bring prices down as well, and that will elevate the pain of Americans. Now, because not only that, he doesn't need to wait, because eh, Trump has demonstrated willingness to negotiate and his close attention to market performance. Any prolonged downturn may be short-lived, okay, because he is very, very concerned about the stock market. But anyway, the reality remains economic policy uncertainty benefits few, and for now, the market remains on edge, right? Gold and silver has surged above international benchmarks in recent weeks, prompting dealers and traders to accelerate shipments of metals into the US ahead of potential tariffs. The rush reflects growing concern over trade restrictions as investors seek to hedge against economic uncertainty. Gold in particular remained poised to reach record highs, driven by persistent fears of a prolonged trade war. As tension continues to escalate, safe haven demand is expected to keep bullion prices elevated, reinforcing gold status as a critical asset during the periods of geopolitical and economic instability. Okay, so anyway, like I told you just now, a bit of history. It's fine. Tariff doesn't mean it's end of the economy and we're going to see a downturn. Uh, but I feel that, with Trump, he doesn't just come in and say, I want to increase tariffs. There are a lot of other things that he will do, and we have also discussed this in previous reports. It's about execution at the end of the day, and if it's executed well, yeah, we probably would see inflation coming down in the next 6 months, and the US stock market will continue to make all-time highs. But whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, we need for this year especially. I still see the stock market slowly going up. It may come down in the next few weeks due to the uncertainty that is being put on in the market, to the market, right? But once this is all settled, I believe that the market will continue to recover. Nevertheless, whatever it is, this year would be a different kind of year. So best to wait until June. And from June, we will have a clearer idea, what to do next. But I do still see the market could still go on slowly rising at least until June. Okay, so but if there are anything, I think by April, if the market wants to, if I'm wrong, right, and the market wants to really, really start crashing because whatever the negotiations fall through and so on, by April, we will have a very, very clear method. Probably end of April, we have a clearer view as to whether, you know, we need to wait until June to see a bullish market, because at the end of the day, when the market falls, it falls faster, and that's why I've given the time frame for the end of April to see that. Okay, so with that, that's the report for today.